These here is what I'm doing this again, but I'm using this today for this. So let's set the compressor up here. Need to watch this phone. Have to take it out of the wind. So back to this project that I started, well, 6 weeks ago or so. So what I'm going to do today here is just final preparations before powder coating. So I'm just setting up the phone and the camera here. And the compressor. So, where's the best place to put this camera? I might keep the two of them here today, this side. So we start in 5 minutes. I just need to watch the phone today again. Well, the problem is it's starting to rain now too, the market. Damn. So if it does rain, I have to stop, sadly. So I'm nearly ready for powder coating. So the plan is today, see those droplets of rain there falling, and I don't like that because it's going to interfere with the preparation. So I'll see what it does in the next couple of minutes here. I have a garage to work on, but I can't get into it. There's too many projects in the way. Right, so here is the air respirator finished. I will be using it today. So it's back up into new condition. So should be a big difference today here with this. testing. Okay, so the plan is here today, right, to dress this a bit better than it's already dressed. So I got new disc for our backing pads and sanding the disc. So not the flat pads, but these ones. So we're going to start off with these welds on the inside here. See these ones with the stainless plates joined to the triangular frame. We're going to do these. Then we're going to do this side, and hopefully the welder doesn't turn. So this will be ready to be powder coated, hopefully by the end of today if the rain stays away. Okay, so an example of what I'm doing here. So I'm going to focus on all the flat edges, flat faces where the welds are, and then we start sanding them. I'm also going to give this maybe a wee quick sand on this backing pad. I'm not sure. I might need to reround this with the weld there. So, as you can see, there's a wee bit of surface dust on this. It's only because it was lying in the garage during the time I was doing this up. The sandblaster, we'll get that. I'm going to give us a final sandblast before I apply the zinc powder. Okay, so the plan is here, right, to sand up to around this point. I'm going to sand the entire surface off this plate, both sides, but I am thinking about having the powder coming up to maybe about 3/4 inch or 1 inch up to the bottom of this plate. There won't be a straight cut edge there, but it will be blended in, and the idea is to have this into a nice finish, a mirror finish. So exactly like the projects that came on the channel, the other mirror polished stainless steel. So I'm going to bring this up to a mirror finish too at the top, and I'm going to powder coat the rest of it down to the bottom. Okay, so this plate will be mirror, roughly about 60mm all the way down from this edge of this face here. So I'll have to sand it through the different stages. This is not as important, sanding this, because the powder will fill any wee small scratches or anything. But this needs to be perfect. This needs to be up to around, say, 1000 grit at least. To remove any, I have to remove the grain too, because there's a brush finish in this even. So there's a wee bit of work involved. Take us back a minute to do a discussion with the camera. That's more important. The 4K. Thankfully it hasn't rained yet. test it. Okay, so the plan is here to sand all the faces, making sure there's no splatter, scratches, gouges, bumps, anything like that on the triangular frame. But when that's complete, I need to move on to these two plates. So what I need to do here is I need to have these sanded too, to remove all the grain, the brush finish that's left on this plate. So I have decided to leave a bare finish on these, so a wee bit of work involved. Not so much polishing but sanding, because there's just there's grain in it. There's a deep coarse brush finish in it. So I'll get started here. Get the wee bit windy there at times. So I have to keep moving the phone here because the one's trying to blow everything over. The two camera stands. No, what's it? Can't go. Have to just be careful. Wrecked a good phone. The camera is different. It's on a proper tripod. Sorry, I'm just setting up the other one here. I have to go out and do that. Right. So I'm going to set this close to the other stand. They sort of act as a wee guide, support even. That's alright there. Okay, so the next stage now is sanding the faces, the surfaces, what do you see? So everything's now sanded with a backing pad. The next stage is using 60 grit or 80 grit. So the weld will be completely gone. There we go again. Have to move this. Can't one, but it's one today, but. Okay, so you can probably hear that air respirator running in the background. It's kind of loud now. That's more powerful, the motor. So what I'm doing here today is I'm continuing on with this contraption that I made a couple of, maybe 3-4 weeks ago. Yeah, I started working on it again. So I have sanded everything now using this backing pad, right? All the welds are flush, so there's no heights along here, but what I need to do now is I need to remove the marks left by the grinder, the backing pad. So this plate needs completely sanded into a smooth finish up to around maybe 1500 grit, and then I have to polish it into a mirror finish both sides. So the reason I'm not powder coating these is because I don't want powder on them, because they are stainless, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to blow the powder up to around this point and keep it off this surface completely. So that's the plan. Hopefully everything works. Like, I'm not sure it will work, but we'll see the crack, because I have to put 4 coats of powder on this, so it might be kind of tricky. So just to mention one more time here, I'm not removing any surface rust that you might see on the surface here because it was lying in the garage. It's lying on the wet floor. I'm not removing any rust. I am going to sandblast this again. What I'm doing here is I'm making sure there's no any deep gouges left for the grinder from 3 weeks ago. So basically removing those, dressing the faces here, really, that's what I'm doing. So you might see me starting to use this again. That's to remove any marks by the grinder, because I don't want no welds visible here at all when I powder cut it. I just want like a concave surface right around, and that goes from here, 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 everywhere. Not too worried about the flats here, because I want the weld left there because it looks better than flattened. And also, just to point out, the powder will fill. So if you look here, you can probably see the recess where the welding sort of melted the box iron. The powder will fill that completely, leaving a nice smooth surface. If it's not too deep. But it's not too deep. I would have this going up higher, but the problem is the one would blow it off the stand. I'll try and keep it here. If you see it shaking about, I'll bring it over here, do you see? Beside this one. Right. Stop this camera. There! That'll work. That'll work there, wouldn't it? Sitting beside the other. Yeah. Careful, it doesn't fall off. those welds will be completely invisible when I go to powder coat this. So we'll start sanding these two plates now because these will be brought up to a mirror finish. Okay. So I'll put the foam, I'll leave the foam where it is. Because it's not blowing about here, you know. Oh, really tighten her up a wee bit. Where I'm asking for bother. Right, so I'm going to start working on those two heavy plates now. The other camera's acting as a stabilizer here, so it's working really well. You probably can tell the difference. So what I want to do here first is I want to remove the brushed finish off the heavy plates. To do that, I'm going to use these backing pads and then I'm going to start going through the grades to bring it up to a nice smooth finish to get that mirror finish that I'm looking for in the future in another week or two. To start this one now. Okay, so the plan is here now to bring this up to a nice smooth finish before I start polishing it into a mirror effect. But I should point out here that I have to remove the brush finish from the stainless before I can start sanding it with the dual axle sander. So to do that, I'm going to be using the backing pad again on the grinder. And I'm also going to do both sides of the plate here. Okay, so what I'm doing there, right, is you see those two faces, so those edges, calling them a face because it's 10mm plate. I'm removing the marks left by the miter saw, and the reason I'm doing that is because I'm going to be polishing from this point to around 60mm down. Okay, so this face is now done. I need sanded. See the way I've removed the brush completely. So I went this way. The grain, the brush used to run this way. It was quite deep. If I take it round this side, I think I've already got it started too. Yeah, you still see the brush finish in that. See that deep score there too, the scratch on the plate? I'll remove that completely. But I need to make sure I don't interfere with these sharp edges. And to do that, you need to make sure that you have the grinder. You can't be hitting it like this, because you're going to hit the edge and leave a big, leave a curve. So you want to be going across it like this instead. Okay, so at this point of the plate, on these the side, these faces, you can see where the marks is left by the bandsaw. Because obviously this is not cut in a laser machine; it's cut using a bandsaw. So the marks are quite coarse, so I need to remove those for the mirror finish. Mirror finish that I desire. Okay, so that's ready for the fuel accent stage now. But I need to continue with the faces of those plates. But as I say, I need to be careful because you can make a mess of the grooves that I've cut. These grooves. So I need to make sure that I'm not cutting it like this. I need to make sure I'm cutting it face on. So see here, to see the brush finish, that needs to be removed completely. big scratch. I have to put this on the stand because don't want to make a mess. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to get a new pad, new sanding pad or disc. So just give me a second there till I get one. Just trying to be careful with this thing. So see, if you look here now, you can see the grain, the brush finish running this way. That needs to be removed completely. I'll demonstrate that now with this phone up close. So I slipped there. Now you put the phone on the stand. Need to be careful. Put it on the stand a moment. I'll bring this forward and I'll just stop the other. So obviously I don't want to make a mess of it. Okay, so that is the brush finish completely removed, right? But the problem is I slipped there and hit this edge. So I'm going to put a new disc on, I'm going to bring it down. Another, well, few thou, and see how it goes. I want to remove that completely because when I start sanding this with a dual action in the moment, I don't want that dip there. And then I'll go back to this disc, right? Because it's not as aggressive because it's used. It's just because I had the phone on my left hand. Not bad there now. Just need to I'll bring this down to show you what I mean. So see if you look here, you see the way I caught the edge? See the way it's vanished there now? Well, if I get this again across the flat of the plate, you will see it appear again, so what do we see? You might be able to see it, it's very fine, or it's very shallow even. It's just there. Okay, so what I might do here is I might start the dual action soon. To show you this finished face nearly. going to leave it alone before I make a mess, right? It's grand there now. So the next stage now is the get using the dual action, right? But first, I want to finish off doing these edges. Problem is, I had the phone in my hand, the left hand. It's not bad, I mean, it's alright, you never see it when it's polished. But it's sanded now. I could keep going and I could remove more meat, but what's the point? What is the point? So I have two yaks running, two cameras running here. The one's calmed down too. Thank goodness. Done. Yeah. Let's do the tops too. Done. Use this one as support again. sparks there is obviously the my steel. This is stainless up to the weld. Okay, so I'm going to start working on the inside now of the plate. So what I'm doing here is I'm removing the brush finish, the green, well, brush finish on the stainless plates on the end of that triangular frame. That's right, one day out here I'm just trying to protect the phone and the camera. Camera's alright, it's just the phone. There. Okay. So I'll bring it up close here again. It's kind of awkward this one, so I'll make maybe put it like this. Okay, so I'll start. Let's be ready. So this side, it's much more of a flat finish compared to the other side. This side, the brush finish completely removed because I am planning to polish this and have a finish at the end, and then the rest of it's going to be a candy purple colour the whole way down for this e-bike hub testing station. So let's start here again. Obviously on the inside it's going to be difficult to get in there to polish on the polishing machine, but it's also quite heavy, this thing. Well, it's not heavy, it's just going to be awkward because it's not a piece of metal, it's like a full unit you're holding up to the machine. So we'll see how it goes. The plan is to polish it, but if not, I can always have it into a nice flat stainless finish. Did I take off there? Okay, so we're just going to focus for this now for the rest of the live stream. The other camera's gone. So I'll bring it up nice and close. Well, I can't because of the stabilizer at the other end there. So I'll just show you what I'm doing there now, right? So if you look at this plate, it's different from the other side. Well, it's the same plate, but it's a different finish. So on the side we've got little dimples. So this is just basically a flat finish. We've got little dimples, and that's what I'm removing. And obviously them big gouges and scores, and I'm doing that without hitting these edges here. It's really important because if you hit the edges, it's going to look completely rough. So here's the weld on the top of the triangular frame. It's completely gone. So if this was left out in the rain now, it's only going to rust to here, to this point. But this will be covered in powder from here down. The powder won't be near these grooves because these grooves have a purpose, and these grooves are holding the axles off the e-brake hubs, QS273 and QS205 to be precise. So the plan is to leave the stainless not covered. That's the plan. So the reason I'm wearing this air purifier is because obviously this stainless is bad for your lungs. So if I'm polishing, or if I'm cutting, grinding, sanding, welding, doing anything with stainless, I tend to protect the lungs, you know. Okay, so I just have one face left to do here. This is done, and then I'm going to start sanding here. So I'll just do a wee close-up of this. So there's one that's not done. So I'll just show you the imperfections on the stainless. I'm going to just run the grinder over it.